Hey everybody, I'm John at Collect Cards. Hope you're all doing well. It's Tuesday, August 27th, and in this video, I am excited to share the first 1933 Goudey baseball card that I've added to my collection, finally. It's been something I've been wanting to do for a while. I've been making other pickups here and there and everywhere over the, last couple of years, I'd say, when, I've really been 95% now focused on vintage, I'd say. And really this year, I've been really going down the pre-war road. I've picked up a lot of play balls, about a half dozen, almost a half dozen, maybe 5 play balls in the last couple of months. I picked up 3 at the National alone, and I really like those cards. But the Goudeys, of course, all-time great set. I picked up a few T-Series as well in the last year plus. But before picking up this 33 Goudey that I'm going to show in a little bit, I only had one other Goudey card, and that was a 34 Goudey. And I'm really excited to now finally have one from the classic 33 set, and which launched the bubblegum card era in earnest. And happy to show it in this video, and then hoping to add a few more here, hopefully in the months to come. I've got a few identified that I'm really targeting in the next 6 to 12 months, let's say. But let me turn the phone around. We'll get right to showing some cards. Hang on just a sec. All right, I'm going to share a few other pickups here in addition to that 33 Goudey, and starting with this 1962 Topps Vada Pinson, which if you caught the last episode of the most recent episode of Bargain Hunters, my collab with Steve Vintage on Vintage, we were trying to find a Vada Pinson card for $35 or less, and I came away with the 62 Topps Pinson in a near mint 7 PSA, and a pretty old flip, but not ancient. I don't know, 3 probably dates back to, 8 years, 7 years ago, maybe 10 years ago at the most, I'd say. I could be wrong there, but I thought overall this was a pretty nice card. I loved being able to get, well, first off, just a really nice card. I mean, it just looks great. It's a little off-center top, but you're almost like getting picky there, because the edges on this card are gorgeous, and I liked being able to pick up a 7 for the wood grain borders of the 62s for this challenge. Even so, it's off-center right on the back, which corresponds to being off-center top. But overall, I mean, this is a pretty sharp card. But as good as this card I thought was for the challenge, Steve came away with a pretty incredible card. So if you haven't checked out that Bargain Hunters, I highly encourage you to check it out. We have a lot of fun doing that series, and our next hunt is for Sandy Koufax, possibly the one of the greatest pitchers of all time for sure. And our budget is our max $50. That's the maximum budget that we allow ourselves, if depending on we spin a wheel and see what the dollar amount is. And this is going to be our first $50 hunt for episode 6 for Sandy Koufax. So I'm looking forward to that challenge. I've got a couple of tracks I'm following there. We'll see how that works out. I'm looking forward to adding another Sandy to my collection. But this Pinson, just wanted to show this one up close here before right here at the start of this video. So he had such a really, really solid start to his career. And I'll just leave it here actually on the side here for a little bit as I run through a couple of other little pickups I picked up recently. But Pinson had a real nice career. Probably not going to end up in the Hall of Fame. But he was on some really good Reds teams there, or pretty good Reds teams to very good Reds team in '61, and he just put up some solid numbers his first 7 or 8 years in the bigs, and then it was with a couple of other teams after that in the '70s, and again, just probably comes up. He didn't get in during his eligibility, hasn't been able to really make waves posthumously, with the various veterans committees. But, we'll see. You never know. But overall, I really like picking that card up. Gonna show really quick a couple of some other pickups I've gotten here. I haven't gotten too much stuff here in the last 2 to 3 weeks or so. I've been, I'm really kind of scaling back the regular purchases, so to speak. For a while I'd be buying 1 or 2 a week, and now it's going to be more like 1 or 2 a month, probably for a decent while. So in that case, I'm relying on things like TTM autographs, and so I was going to trot out 4 here really quick. Picked up the players of note. I'm sending more out here to try to kind of occupy my hobby time in a way, and it's just fun to revisit this. So Doug DeCinces was a really good ball player on the Orioles and the Angels, third baseman. He is $5, and he sent me he wrote a reply on my note. I did a recent video on Through the Mail Autos, and I shared the standard note that I send to every player. I kind of do a recollection of my first memories of opening packs and my first major league game at Yankee Stadium in 1978, which was right in kind of his time when he was really establishing himself as a big leaguer. And he circled that part of that paragraph on my letter and said, "Oh, that's great. I loved beating the Yankees in New York." That was just really funny. So you never know what you're going to get from players. Sometimes they get inundated with autograph requests, so they're very generous, giving their time, even if and for $5, for all-star auto, and he was a pennant winner on the '79 Orioles. You never know what you're going to get. Sometimes you're going to get a little extra like that, so that was really fun to get from him. So I thought I got his auto, a couple of other players of note. Showing this one here, he was actually, Gary Lavelle was a pretty good relief pitcher in the '70s and '80s. Look up his stats. He had an ERA of, I think, about 3 for his whole career. The reason I'm showing this one is that this card might have taken the record for my longest ever return. This card took about 18 months to get back to me, so that was pretty cool to get back. Sometimes they take that long. Here's a '76 of Elliot Maddox. I remember him more as being on some really bad Mets teams in the late '70s, but he was on the Yankees in the mid '70s. So it was pretty cool. He even put his uniform number on there. He was $5, by the way. Lavelle was free. And here's another freebie, Lee Guterman. Some might remember him, or you might remember him from the '80s. He actually pitched for the Yankees for a short time too. This guy was a pretty tall lefty, 6'8". He didn't have Randy Johnson's stuff, but he was in a way almost for the Mariners was like the big unit before the big unit. But just thought I'd show 4 autos there, TTMs. And then I was at one of my LCSs over the weekend. I bought a whole, I spent a whole $23 in there, and I bought my first new cards, modern cards, in 2 to 3 months. I bought a $20 box of Stadium Club, just because you never see something like that these days. Seems like every new product is just like ridiculously overpriced. I haven't opened a pack of Chrome all summer, and I'm almost proud of that. At $40 a blaster box, it's just getting unreasonable at this point. But it was fun to just rip 8 packs for $20 for a change of Stadium Club from 23. Got nothing out of it really, of course, but I did find this card for $2 at my LCS. Let me move Pinson now to fix the focus. Anytime I can get a 4 Hall of Famer card for $2 in relatively good condition, any day. Pretty fun card to pick up, I thought, for $2. 1970 pitching leaders from '69. Seaver, Necro, Jenkins, Marichal. That's an awesome card for $2 to put in kind of like the raw collection. This is I don't have tons of raw cards since I got back in. I've got hundreds, but I don't have thousands. And this is an awesome card to add to that. So it's really for $2. I absolutely loved finding that. Okay, let's get to the main event now. So again, I picked up my first 33 Goudey. I was super excited to get it, and I'm gonna not waste much time and just get right to it. So I'm gonna say right now, it's not a Hall of Famer, but this card kind of is confirming a new kind of want list for my VCP pro, kind of account, I created a new want list based off of this pickup, and it involves some cards that I already had on my want list, but I've now shifted them over into this new one, and it has to do with player managers. I find that kind of, they were a very common phenomenon, or a pretty common phenomenon back in the day, in the vintage era and the pre-war era in particular, but even into the 40s, 50s, maybe started dying out a little bit in the 60s in terms of the practice, but then it picked up a little bit in the 70s. But let me show you the card I picked up. Again, not a Hall of Famer, but a darn good player and a pretty darn good manager, and here it is. Charlie Grimm. So, if you're not familiar with Charlie Grimm, first off, this is the Chicago Cubs. Even though this lettering is a little reminiscent of the White Sox, actually, in terms of that letter style. Charlie Grimm was a longtime player on the Chicago Cubs, first baseman, and he ended up managing them in the 30s and 40s and into 30s and 40s, and then he managed, I want to say he managed the Pirates for a few years after that, and then he came back to the Cubs again briefly in the late 50s or even 1960. Long story short, this guy managed a long time and was a very successful manager. He managed 3 Chicago Cub pennant winners, including the first year he was a player manager in 1932. He was the manager of the 1932 Cubs in the World Series, the series where Babe Ruth called his shot, hitting a home run off Charlie Root into the center field section of Wrigley Field. Whether he called it or not, who knows? That game where his purported jersey went just now this past weekend for $20+ million on Heritage's huge auction they had. This guy managed the losing team Cubs. They got swept by the Yankees in that series. But this is just a beautiful card. And a little bit more about Grimm. He had over 20, I think he had about 2,300 hits. He batted .290 for his career. He was just a solid player. I've read it, just sort of reading up on him a little bit more. Bill James, the father of analytics, says he may have been the best defensive first baseman of all time. At least, I don't know when he made that remark, Bill James, but apparently Charlie Grimm was an excellent defensive first baseman and a darn good hitter too, and as it turned out, he's a pretty darn good manager. I like the fact that this card is from 1933 Goudey. Let's talk about the card for just a minute, and I'll try to pick this up, because basically I have just one other card to show, and it's not even a new pickup, but overall the card's in really good shape, I think. I got this from a seller, and actually there's a bonus to this buy too that I'm going to show in a sec. So the seller didn't actually list this card on eBay probably the way it should have been. He actually listed, the title of the listing was Big League Charlie Grimm. He actually didn't use Goudey in the title of the listing, which I think was probably one reason why this was hanging around for a while, because I was following it for a decent while. And I will grade this at some point. I might keep it raw for a few months and maybe not send it off. I'm going to send it to SGC. I thought about PSA, because I am going to send a PSA group order probably in the next month or so. And, the red flip of a PSA, slab kind of might work with this in terms of, just sort of color matching and whatnot. But I most likely will send this off to SGC in a future SGC order. But it's a beautiful card. Registration's really good. Really good. Corners are decent. My hope is that it would grade a 4. That's my hope. So it's, I know for a lot of Goudeys, you're looking for the bleed on the back. I have seen some examples where you kind of see this brown spotting. I don't know what you would call that exactly. I've seen a few examples of that where the bleeding doesn't come through that much. Well, if you look at it at the right angle, you almost it almost looks a little darker down here, which would suggest that there's just enough of that red bleeding through, just a touch. But you know, the majority of Goudeys, the bleed is, you know, unmistaken. You can't miss it. But this one, it's a little harder to see, but I don't have a concern that this card is fake or altered in some way. You know, I mean, Charlie Grimm's not a Hall of Famer. He was a great player, a very good player. But this is just a really cool card. The seller mentioned that it was this, you know, in his dad's collection for years. And as it turned out, it wasn't just this card that I got. Look what else came in this deal. I got an autograph of Charlie Grimm on a Chicago Cubs ticket stub. Look how old this ticket stub is. 1983. So these two cards were in some kind of frame setup that I guess they were in for a long time. And so this ticket is pretty well preserved. Pretty well preserved. And as is the card. And here's the deal. What made me even more interested in this deal, and you could find this, you know, just sort of look up past sales of Charlie Grimm on eBay. You'll find this listing where I got both of these. So I'm not going to share the price. It was a pretty good deal though, overall, I think. Look up the box score from this date, Cubs Pirates at Wrigley, and it makes this ticket even more interesting to me. I'll mention right now what was going on in this game. it was Fergie Jenkins' last year, and he was back with the Cubs. Fergie Jenkins got the win in this game, and Ryne Sandberg, it was his first full season with the Cubs. And wouldn't you know it, Ryne Sandberg got 2 hits in this game, and he also stole home. Now, I don't know what was the scenario or the circumstances behind him stealing home, but gosh, what a game that was, and the Cubs did win. I am very tempted to also send this off, because they both signed through the mail. That's partly why I showed some TTM autos earlier. I am very tempted to share this, or to send this ticket off to Fergie and Rhino to get autographs on this. I'm tempted. I don't know if I'm going to follow through with it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments if you would you send this off to them to also get an autograph on this, given that game? You know, it wasn't any, you know, major win in their history. I mean, 1983, I think, was the year of the Lee Elia rant. So given it's early June, maybe they were starting, I think they were still under 500 after they won this game, but they were probably picking it up a little bit. Because, as you know, Lee Elia said, the talent's there. If you know that rant that he gave, that you can easily find on YouTube. But what I love that with Fergie and Rhino is that it represents 3 Cubs generations. So Grimm was at this game, apparently. The seller said, you know, and you know, you're taking it for face value, but the seller had totally fine ratings on eBay. So I'm not, you know, I'm assuming what he's saying was, you know, true. He said his brother got this autograph at Wrigley. This was his dad's card. His brother was at this game to get this autograph. Charlie Grimm died in November of 1983, and he was still kind of, you know, he was, you know, I guess, I don't know how regular of a fixture he was at Wrigley Field, but he was still kind of, you know, he was a fan favorite. His nickname, I should have added before, his nickname was Jolly Charlie. Jolly Charlie. He was just apparently a fun guy, I guess, overall, and he was probably a player's manager on, you know, with that in mind. So just a really cool pickup overall, I thought, getting these together. So I'll put the ticket aside, but I'd be curious to know what you think about that. I mentioned at the start of this, I have one 1934 Goudey. Here it is. I got this at the National last year, my Red Rolf. It is a rookie card of his. Notice anything in common there? There's something about the light blue backgrounds that just kind of pull me in. So that was one reason why I was drawn to this. But then, you know, reading up on Grimm and the player manager he was and the successful player he was, he won 3 pennants with the Cubs. Didn't win a World Series, but he won 3 pennants. I'm gonna, I'm a manager collector, to a degree. I like that part of baseball, what the managers do, from a purely collecting standpoint. I'm drawn to the manager, and I'm finding myself drawn to the player manager. I'm already wanting to pick up a 1948 Leaf, 1949 Leaf Lou Boudreau. I like the idea of that player manager's card from a certain year where they did something special. So, this just came off of them winning the pennant the year before, this 33 Goudey. Lou Boudreau won the World Series in 48 as player manager. He also won the AL MVP. Regarding 33 Goudey, I mentioned that I have a few in mind I'd like to pick up. I want to get the 33 Goudey Bill Terry. He's got 2 cards in the set. I want number 125, the shot of him with the green background, and it's sort of just a portrait of him. That's one I really want to try to pick up before the end of this year. He was the player manager for the New York Giants. He had just taken over for John McGraw, who retired, and the Giants won the World Series in 1933. And who did they beat in that 33 World Series? They beat the Washington Senators. Player managed by Joe Cronin, another Hall of Famer like Terry. Joe Cronin has 3 cards in the 33 Goudey set. And I can't remember the number of the card, but I think I'm most interested in the one with the navy blue background where he's holding a bat. I think that might be slightly the most affordable as well. The other 2 cards are him with a glove, and one is just a color background, one is sort of like a stadium background, and they're higher numbers in the set. I think I'm more interested in the one where he's holding a bat. But those are, wouldn't you know it, there were 2 player managers who squared off in that 1933 World Series, and so I want to get their 33 Goudey cards. I also want to get the 1975 Topps Frank Robinson. That was the first year that he managed that team, Cleveland, and he was the first black manager. I think that's an important card to get for me being interested, I should say, in collecting player managers. I've got like 6 or 7 that I want to pick up, in the months and maybe years to come. And those are 3 other ones right there. And I loved picking up this Charlie Grimm. So there's my 33 Goudey for you. In classic 21 plus minute style here for this video. Didn't expect it to go this long, but if you stuck with me this long, I really appreciate it. I ended up, as you'll probably, there's a good chance you may have gotten to the video 8 or 9 minutes in when I finally showed this card. I'm going to put a timestamp in the description to get right to this, because I realized how long it took me to get there. But I haven't done a video in over a week, so maybe I was a little overdue. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and I hope your late summer here is going well overall. Both catching the pennant races, and catching, if you're able to hit a card show or hitting your LCS, kind of that time after the National. I found the last 2 summers a bit of a lull in terms of collecting. It's almost like we all need a little bit of a relief, like a breather from like actively kind of buying or searching, and so that's kind of been my last month. But I'm actually looking forward to first thing, finding a Sandy Koufax for 50 or less that really sings, and then a couple of these other cards I'm really looking for here toward the end of the year as we start moving into the fall. That Bill Terry I just mentioned from 33 Goudey, I really hoping to pick that one up. And then another one who's not a player manager, I'm really hoping to pick up that 49 Bowman Bob Feller. That's I've mentioned that as a want more than once. That's the one with the red background of him in profile throwing. Love that card. So those are 2 cards I'm really hoping to pick up before the end of the year. But with that, I will wrap this up. Thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.